All right, everyone. Trump's new mouthpiece has gone off the deep end in just the perfect way, and it's actually. By the way, before someone looks at the terminology there, thinks I'm criticizing him, I don't have a problem with what Scaramucci said. I think it's actually really hilarious, and I'll get into it a little bit. But he did go a little crazy there. He's even attacking Steve Bannon. Here's roughly what he said. He indicated that Steve Bannon sucks his own dick. Essentially saying, well, I'm not Steve Bannon, I don't do that sort of shit. Steve Bannon is basically interested in his own proposals and his own plans and schemes. I'm just here to support the White House and do well by the American people. Then he attacked Reince Priebus, who deserves to be attacked, to tell the truth, and said, I'm going to discover his leakers and fire them one by one. And by the way, I know that it's you doing this, Priebus, and that Priebus was a paranoid schizophrenic for thinking he needed to embed people in the White House and leak information. I kind of agree with him. Priebus would definitely be high on the list of possible suspects if somebody were paying people off within the White House staff to leak information out to them. It would definitely be Priebus would be on near the top of the list. Personally, I think John McCain's in on it, along with some of the Democrats. You think Hillary and all these other people don't mingle with these same folks? Yeah, that's why they're passing this new Russian sanctions bill to try to hobble Trump's foreign policy proposals. You see, at this point, the veil is being removed, and even a bunch of Republicans really are on board with starting a new Cold War. How wonderful. I wonder if it's a prelude to the next proxy conflict they can use to enrich their corporate buddies. I think it is. But there are a lot of people who would rather proclaim that it's because Trump is evil and doing something wrong. Oh, how short-sighted and small-minded you really are if you think that. Trump is the lesser of all of those evils, certainly. So Scaramucci comes out and makes all these comments. And some people are going to say, well, he needs to be fired. He's mouthing off. He's saying things that are they are disrespectful of the office of the presidency and of the White House. Yeah, there's been so much respect from the White House in recent human history. It's really noble and highbrow. Nothing strange or weird is ever said by any president or anybody around them. Just look at such wonderful, noble people as JFK, who fucked everything that moved, or Richard Nixon, or Bush, warmonger in chief, or Obama, same thing, only he switched to using drones to conduct his civilian assassinations. Yeah, who cares? Oh, the nobility and the image of DC will be tarnished. What's the image of DC, everybody? It's worse than any swamp. Trump is being gentle with these people. More like hellhole. More like pit of burning trash and filth, a literal modern-day Gehenna or something like that. That's what DC is. Who cares if he swore? Who cares if he makes a joke about Steve Bannon? What, you think these other politicians don't do this stuff in private? Once in a while, someone gets caught on a hot mic. What is it always about? Anytime they're caught on a hot mic, within any 10-second span, they're dropping the F-bomb or they're saying how they wish they could throttle somebody else. They talk like that constantly, especially when they go get drunk. Like when they had what was it there? The government shutdown vote, and Boehner said something to the effect of, the smell of booze was overwhelming, like everyone was drunk, basically. That's what they do. That's what our politicians in this country have devolved into. If you think that Trump is a disgrace to that office, you haven't been paying attention. I'm sorry, you just haven't. If you think that what Scaramucci is saying here is a problem, don't watch any movies, don't play any video games. In fact, don't go outside of your house, and definitely not on the internet. Become a shut-in hermit. Because you're such a moralistic pearl clutcher, you're going to have problems with whatever anybody says. And that's really how the left has devolved into today. You've got two different layers of the left being easily offended. Social justice warrior is offended just because you happen to have like a Y chromosome. So that's way, way out there. But the more vicious, I think, the more creeping pearl clutching that goes on is from the neoliberals. Because it's pretend. They pretend to be high and mighty. They pretend that comments like this are a problem. They pretend that they care. Meanwhile, they meet with the Pope and pretend to be really religious. Can't you see what these people are doing? They're reverting into a moralistic party, and they're hoping that you won't even notice that it's going on. Oh, they're still liberals. No, they're not. They're not liberals at all. They're barely even neoliberals at this point. I don't even know what they fucking are. Scaramucci's comments are not problematic. I find it's hilarious. A lot of people voted for Trump hoping this sort of thing would happen. Oh yeah, Steve, I'm not going to suck myself like Steve Bannon does. I'm just trying to do a solid by the American people. Maybe he was drunk when he made that specific part of the comment. And he says he's going to go after the Priebus leakers. And he's probably right. We've got all sorts of weird scandals erupting. It's like watching a piece of fruit when it just starts to rot. Just a few little spots are appearing. They're starting to get a little bit fuzzy. But you know that it's not going to be long until the whole fruit is covered in nothing but a thick patch of fungal fur. That appears to be what we're seeing. Scaramucci and Bannon and some of these others are basically Trump's hitman, essentially, to go after people who are trying to denigrate his role in office. And I support that. This is not gangster-esque or Moscow-esque. This is what you would do if you were trying to do the right thing and kept constantly getting obstructed because people kept leaking and people kept using anonymous sources to make up total bullshit about you. It's exactly what you would do. But the same people that don't like Trump and which are fiscally in bed with those who additionally don't like him, like Priebus, or like McCain, or like the Clintons or Obamas, those people, unfortunately, until very recently, were the ones that gave people their consensus reality on the news every night. That becomes a problem. Why do you think Trump refuses to talk to them and takes to Twitter? Because the internet may be a wild place where people say really off-the-wall stuff, including some of Trump's own tweets. But it's more fair than cable, because at least on the internet he can count on a few people to correctly construe what he's saying and fully report on it. For Scaramucci's comments, they're just funny. Yeah, Steve Bannon fillets himself. I mean, does anyone think that he's actually flexible enough to do that in the first place? I don't. And I don't have, by the way, any problem with Bannon. It's true, he has his own, side proposals. Trump has brushed some of them off. As far as his tax policies he's talked about, more power to him. I like Bannon on that. Might even like him more than I like Trump at this point, because he's actually still talking about it on a regular basis. That if Scaramucci wants to go after some leakers within the government, what's the fucking problem with that? Obama used to do that. He called it par for the course, and everyone talked about how he was defending the Republic, and it was wonderful. And that was over things that actually, negatively impacted their lives, like domestic surveillance. We're talking right now about, oh, well, what does Trump do in the bedroom? Or what did Steve Bannon say yesterday about the chicken he ate or something? It's just a bunch of bullcrap. And why do you think they keep using anonymous sources constantly and pretending it's a hot scoop? It's because it's a character assassination campaign. That's really what it boils down to. I would side generally with Scaramucci on this one. I think anyone who has a problem with that being said, oh, somebody in the government said a bad word. What if my kids hear? Well, your kids hear worse every day. Hell, they'll hear worse on even on the cable news at this point. Trump isn't denigrating the role of the presidency and making it an embarrassment, and the people around him aren't either. It's been an embarrassment for a very long time. It would be difficult for Trump to do anything that could be worse than what's already been done over the last 50 years in D.C. It would be very, very difficult, from the Iraq War all the way on back and all the way up through to Benghazi and Servergate and everything else under the sun. You're telling me that these people are so noble and so wonderful that you want to project this fake as fuck image to your kids, that they're beyond reproach? They don't Little Jimmy, if you want to be a president, you can't swear. It's not about that. It's called try to do the right thing once in a while. It's called don't be completely corrupt. If they have a foul mouth, who cares? Who really cares? I would much rather Trump sit there and swear all day. I wouldn't ask me which of these two situations I'd prefer. Trump sits there for an hour on live TV swearing like a drunken sailor, or Trump does something that actually negatively impacts people and is corrupt. I'd rather him sit there and swear. I'm sorry, I just don't find fault with him for that. And for somebody around him to do the same thing, who cares? It's funny, it's definitely newsworthy in this case, because it is out there, especially the Bannon comments. And the idea of going after rinsed penis, I think, is a good idea, but also it is newsworthy. I mean, even the lamestream media would be right to report on it. But to report on it and say, oh, he's crazy, Trump's obviously lost it. And, that's not what's happening at all. He's just being honest. He's saying, hey, we're being obstructed here. We're trying to take care of the problem. It's probably Priebus responsible for this, possible. In fact, I'd say likely. And by the way, Steve Bannon is just a jaded opportunist. Also agreed. I may agree with some of the platforms he's pushing, but, can we stop pretending that he's primarily there to aid Trump's ideas and not to insert a few of his own? I mean, what qualifications specifically would he have otherwise if he weren't just sitting there pushing a few things off? So, you're going to get in the next 24 hours, I'm sure, a lot of people saying, oh, I'm so offended by this. He said cock. He said bad things. He insulted who cares if he insults Rince Priebus or Steve Bannon? And if Steve Bannon comes out and unloads on Scaramucci, it'll be even funnier. And who'll care about that too? People will pretend to be high and mighty and moral. It'll be a little bit like the little old ladies who go to church, years ago, and then they get home and they get wasted and have extramarital affairs or something like that. Oh, I'm so holy. Do as I say, not as I do. That's essentially how these people work. That's how the left works. It's how the social justice warriors work. It's certainly how the fucking media works. It's how all of DC has worked for a very long time. You've finally gotten someone there who just says what he means and doesn't really care about what you think about it. I can admire that. Yeah, I have no problem with what Trump's been saying and doing so far. A lot of people wish I did too. I get people constantly telling me, including people who voted for him. They're like, oh, Trump did wrong this time. Trump did something horrible. And what does it turn out to be? It's, oh, Trump said something a little off the wall. Like he hasn't been doing that for a year. It's normal for him. Much better than getting us involved in another war. That's what Congress is trying to do right now. Did you even see the bill that they rammed through with regards to Russian sanctions? Oh, let's start another Cold War. It'll be just funny. It'll be wonderful when we see those mushroom clouds falling. That'll be so much better than having to deal with Trump saying something mean on Twitter. Yeah, they would rather have a nuclear conflict, another Cuban Missile Crisis, than deal with a president who occasionally says something weird and who has a communications director who said cock. Which one of these things is worse for humanity? I'm going to assume that it's actions and not words. That's about all. Peace out.